So, welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. First thing we have on the agenda is approval of minutes of February 15th. The motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Communications, the only one I have is from our highway department. They may be working on a retaining wall on River Road in West Cornwall next week. Not quite sure what the schedule is, but we may have to close River Road at Route 128 for a while they redo some of the embankment there. But we'll get word out to the residents there when we get a firm date on that. Additions to the agenda, I had two. One was snow shoveling co-op. Second was appointments, Jeff Morgan to the Inland Wetlands Commission. Is there a second to add those two things?
Can I add one more thing?
You can add one more thing, sure.
Quick healthcare update.
Sure. Okay, so we have three additions there. Any other additions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First thing is COVID-19 update. Seems like numbers are definitely heading in the right direction. In view of that, the state is in Region 1 are not requiring masks anymore. They're optional at the school, although they're still requested. And we'd like to do the same thing at Town Hall, that they're not mandatory, but they are requested. And again, at Town Hall, we would like to have people communicate with us if possible by phone or by email. They don't have to come see us in person in order to get business done. And I think we'll continue to request masks at the transfer station until we make even more progress on the pandemic. So again, thanks to everybody that has cooperated and helped us get to where we are now. We look forward to a more active spring, and hopefully we will have more events and things that we've missed in the last couple of years. It's been a long couple of years for people, but again, the town's pulled together well, and hopefully we will not have this as an agenda item very much longer. So
Can I just get a point of clarification,
Sure.
Gordon?
Yes.
So it's mandatory masks at the transfer station for the time being, yes?
well, I think right now, I think we're going to request them. I don't think at this point
Okay.
we have the emergency authority to require them, but we're going to,
Okay.
as with other town buildings, we're going to request that people have. So again, we can only do what's legally required, and I think all the emergency orders have more or less been removed, except for the school mask mandates, which are left up to the school boards.
Okay.
But again, we can request that people can do that, and in the same way, we're going to promote vaccination clinics and a lot of other good precautions to try to keep us in the gray zone.
Thank you.
Any thoughts on that, Ted, from the transfer station?
I think it's a good idea. A lot of people are questioning it, but we're asking them to put it on. They're only there for a few minutes. It's not going to hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else on COVID? Okay, next we have the Mira contract. And again, that's doing a second amendment to our service agreement with Mira, who takes care of our municipal solid waste and our recyclables. And then, just as a way of background, I know it did come up at our last meeting. A question was asked as far as what is the ultimate location or destination of our recyclables, to make sure that Mira is committed to having recycling really be recycling and not be things getting mixed in with this with solid waste when things get tight. So I actually talked to the head of Mira today about that issue, and what he said was that even when the price goes down, Mira has never tossed the recycling. They carefully sort it out. There is a new recycling facility in Berlin, Connecticut, where all their recycled material goes to be processed and packaged for marketing and resale. He said actually right now the recycled cardboard is particularly a hot commodity, as are plastics. Those are, the cardboard actually probably goes up to a mill in Canada, where a paper mill where they recycle it back into cardboard. The plastic generally gets shredded and turned into fleeces or clothing material, filler for clothes. A lot of that's coming, is a destination for recycled plastics, and some of it goes into turns into pellets for containers. But he did stress that the recycling market is a good one at this time, and they are committed to making sure that the recycling efforts that we all do does cut the waste stream. So anyway, good talk with him. I did read in the media that other towns are signing, neighboring towns are doing Mira contract, and they've actually sent us a letter last week saying they are cutting their tip fee that was estimated to be $116 a ton down to $111 a ton. So that again will cut the increase. And we're glad with that. So I guess what I'm looking for is a motion to authorize me to execute this second amendment to our municipal service agreement with Mira as drafted and sent to us by them this year. And it would go for 5 years. And hopefully we will have a better solution to our municipal solid waste at that time. So anyway, there is still a lot of pressure being applied at the state level to try to come up with a better solution than trucking the garbage out of state. At this point, there is not a better solution for the hundreds of tons that are being generated. So is there,
Move to authorize you to do that.
okay, is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Sure.
What is the penalty if we want to get out of the 5-year contract? Is there any penalty to do so if there is another opportunity for a better situation?
I do not have that answer right now. I think we're pretty well committed to that. Because the whole thing would, I think, fall apart if that happened.
Meaning if we went out of the
I
contract.
don't think we have,
sign the whole
if
thing
we
would go
sign
down.
up. Now, there is, I believe there's another option that we can, I'm reading what they sent us. Let's see. There is an opt-out disposal fee. So you can sign up for that, which would be, if you want to keep that option, it would be substantially more than this amount. So you can sign up now, but then you have an opt-out agreement, I believe, which would mean you'd pay more every month from the start of the agreement for the right to opt out. Once we sign this for the $111, we're pretty well locked in for that 5-year period.
Okay. You don't, I mean,
So-
you don't really know of another option that's coming down the pike.
No, I mean, other towns have looked at, have asked haulers for things, and they've come in substantially more than this. And the other incinerators in Connecticut are not far behind the Hartford as far as, becoming obsolete and not, and becoming non-functioning is what I've been told. And again, with the price of oil maybe going up, I think this seems to be the only game in town, or at least the most economical at this point. And I think also by us being in with quite a few other municipalities, in theory, that would give us more bargaining power than if we went out alone, because again, we are only obligated to truck our garbage to Torrington, where they take it from there. Whereas if we, had to pay somebody, they'd have to go a lot farther than Torrington to actually dump it, is my understanding. So,
I guess I would just want to do everything we can to get as much out of that stream as possible. So we're not, like food waste and that kind of stuff. I would really love to see us continue to work on those composting options to get us and do education. So the more we get out of that, the less we pay.
right, cutting it down and I think already we pull a lot out as it is. And I think per capita, we don't bring as much as other places, but doesn't mean we can't do more.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other conversation on executing this agreement? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Transfer station upgrade. Work has started. The old office is no more, and it's been demolished and containerized, and the site is being stabilized for the new building. Ted, do you want to give us any details on that as of this afternoon?
Yeah, it's totally down, the old office. The concrete has been all tore up. They are pouring piers tomorrow. The electrician, Garrick Deneen, is going to hook up what he needs to for temporary power. And we will have a standpipe, but for water, when we do have water to be turned on. But there is an issue with that, and you and I will discuss that at another time. But other than that, everything seems to be running smoothly. People are just going to have to, be patient a little bit. We've had to come out into the asphalt area with our cones a little bit, narrowed it down. So please watch your speed, because we do have a lot of people walking around both ways, in and out, and we're trying to keep it clean and neat as we can. But just have them be aware that there is construction there, and a lot of things are going on, especially when you come around to exit the facility. You might find one of us there once in a while if we need to be, because we're getting lumber delivered and all that. So just be aware of that situation. But other than that, it looks good. Everything's, looking pretty good. We can see what it's going to look like now. It's all laid out, and it looks great. You guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, we had a good pre-construction meeting at the transfer station last week with Jim Terrell, the contractor, and Lisa Keskinen, the architect, and made some minor last minute changes. I did also sign the contract with Jim Terrell Construction. And a few, again, minor changes to plans, but things should come in at the cost that we agreed. So that has been done. So I think we're off and running there. So again, hopefully, what did you say, Ted, as far as, I mean, most of it's probably gonna get done within a month, we think? Something like that.
Yeah, well, I didn't talk to Jim at that point per se. He's got a couple other programs that are in working right now. He wanted to get the piers poured, get that all laid out. Josh will be there tomorrow with some gravel. We've made some pitches around the building. Still, we could have access to. So I didn't exactly talk to Jim on time because I know he's kind of split in between here and there. So
Right.
with his game plan for this week anyway.
Yeah. Good. So anyway, good to get that started. Anything else on the transfer station? And most of the work will be being done on days the station is not open, I think. Yeah, so, okay, so that's good. Next, railroad spraying. Let's see, we did write back. We have asked the contractors who are doing post spraying to have a time so we can find out exactly when that will happen. Our proposal at this point is, if I don't hear back by the end of the week, to call the people at the state and try to find out from them when the spraying will be done. And again, to try to clarify, we do have some no spray zones around the villages. And I just want to confirm that the spraying will take those into account. So that's sort of where we're at with that. I think a lot of times spraying doesn't happen until, you know, the plants come out of their dormancy, and usually it's a summer, late spring, early summer type activity. So I think we still have time to figure all that out, but I will put that on the calendar to do next week if we don't hear back. Any other thoughts on the railroad spraying business? Yes, Janet?
So. Got some
Okay.
nice signs. These are signs that can be used over a period of time. So I just wanted to talk about if there's an opportunity to work with people along the no spray zones. The goal is to make it clear to the people who are doing the application where the no spray zone is, like where it starts, where it ends, so it's very crystal clear. The goal is not to be antagonistic, but to be clear in communications. So what I want to figure out is how would be the best way to distribute signs? Where would we be able to put them so that we're not antagonizing, but making clear where the appropriate places to and not to spray are?
Well, I think we have documents that delineate where the no spray zones are.
Okay.
So, and obviously the right of way does vary from place to place. It's not a uniform 25 feet off the center of the tracks, depending on whether there's a siding or whether it does vary. So it's not, oftentimes the railroad owns well beyond the track or the track bed. So there are maps in town hall that shows you the limits of that, but generally, and I think the good thing is that, you know, the no spray zones are mostly in the village of West Cornwall, and there are some in Cornwall Bridge and some around Trinity Camp, but that's or Trinity Conference Center. But I think you have a copy of this map, Janet.
Yes.
So it's pretty thorough. And I'd say if anybody wants one of signs, then you can handle that distribution, but it should not be in the town it should not be in the put in the railroads right away.
Right.
It could be on people's lawns or next to their houses. So,
Okay. So
and
would
these-
there be opportunity to designate a spot to hand out signs and have, pictures of the maps?
I mean, if you want to take that and you can do it, but I mean, I don't really think it needs to be any more. I mean, you have the map, you have some signs, you can go talk to the people there and see if they want to sign. I
Okay.
mean, if they want to put it on their property, then they can put it on the property, but they're not, the railroad's not going to have them put them on their property. I can pretty much guarantee that.
No, understood. I mean, these are, like it's got a little, stake, so it's not permanent. It would just be, when they're doing their application, we would want to make it clear where we would not want to have spraying done. So I guess what I'll do then is I'll take those maps and I'll figure out, the people along the way, and I'll just make a trip down the road and offer free signs.
Yeah, it's not really that, big, long an area either. I think it's less than a mile. So anyway.
Okay, I have 30 signs.
Okay, well, I think that
I
should be
do it.
sufficient. Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
so if you could just let me know when they're talking about doing it, I want to be prepared so that, we have it in place prior to them
right,
making their trip down the road.
okay. Any other thoughts on spraying? Okay. Housing Committee, again, that is one of our top goals. I drafted up a charge of the committee, having talked to Jocelyn Air, who is working on the new housing group, and to Mag Cooley, the Housing Corporation, on next steps. And I think one of the biggest things that is on the plan that needs to be done is trying to work on a community housing trust to help raise money to fund housing. So what I would like to do is to have us, I mean, we have people that have already volunteered to be on this housing group, but again, we need to find out what is appropriate step for the town to take as far as how this would work. And there are other towns that have something like this that Jocelyn was aware of. And she said she'd be willing to work with a group. So this is what I would thought as a charge for us to appoint a group to research establishing a financial vehicle to facilitate a affordable housing options in Cornwall. The work would include studying relevant models from similar towns that are addressing the regional housing crisis, including very high costs and few rental options. The group will send recommendations back to the Board of Selectmen promptly. And basically what these are basically called are community housing trusts. So that's what I would like to do. And I know we do have some people that express interest. If the board feels this would be appropriate next step, then I can touch base again with people that have expressed an interest, and we can appoint them and adopt this charge at our next meeting. The thought is that they would talk to us about, do some research, because we don't have the time or to do this at a selectmen's meeting, but really dig into this, see what's worked in other area towns, in other places, and then come back to us with a recommendation. Then we would appoint people to be on this housing trust or whatever this vehicle board should be called. So What do you think about that?
I think it's, if I may say something, I think it's so important. I think it's probably one of the only shortcomings that I see in Cornwall is not having rentals and low income housing available. So I think the selectmen should get behind this kind of a housing committee and be as much help as we can.
Agreed.
Sure. Okay, so let's put that on our, we'll put that on our agenda next time. To appoint a group, approve a charge. Any thoughts on that draft language at this point?
Not really.
Okay. I think it's pretty targeted, and again, up to this group to decide sort of the next step. But it's hard to, I mean, it's sort of a two-step process at this point. Okay. All right. So anyway, we will continue with that next week and or next meeting, and hopefully get that up and running and appointed again. And thanks to the people that have expressed an interest. We've got a talented group stepping up to this, so it's going to be good. Anything else on the housing? Budget 22-23, we did submit our budget to the Board of Finance. They had several questions, but no suggested changes at this point. The school board, I believe, has their budget for the Board of Finance next week. And that's sort of where it's at. We're heading towards a budget hearing at the end of April and town meeting in May, hopefully in person. Something to look forward to. Anything else on the budget?
No.
Assessor transition. Time does move on, and our longtime assessor is planning to retire at the end of this fiscal year. And we are very fortunate that she has been training a assessor who is the assessor now in Salisbury, who will continue her work in Salisbury when Barbara Begos retires in June, but would also become the assessor here in Cornwall. We have to have an assessor that's certified by the state to do this work. And we are working through the revaluation process. The Board of Assessment Appeals is meeting with several cases that are in front of it this month. And again, thanks to Barbara Begos for doing a great job for quite a few years. And thanks to Kayla Johnson for stepping up as we, again, the budget is changed slightly from last year as far as the hours people are going to be working. And we are going to have an update for you closer to June when we work out all those details. But again, I would like this board to endorse that general plan because some towns are struggling to find an assessor at this point. And we are lucky to have a good transition plan to do this. And again, having somebody that's familiar with the town, has worked through the revaluation process with us, is a real asset. So again, and Barbara said she very much enjoyed working in Cornwall. And again, we were very fortunate because we were in this situation a number of years ago. Barbara wanted to retire to Florida, and she stayed on for a couple of years just to get us through to this point. So again, that got us out of a tight situation and got our reevaluation done. So anyway, I think it's appropriate at this point to accept with regret Barbara's retirement plan and wish her well. And to accept Kayla Johnson as our assessor to be. So I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. Great. So anyway, thanks again.
Gordon.
That going. Um,
Huh?
Speaking of taxes, we have several
Oh, Priscilla has
refunds.
a question, Gordon.
Oh,
Sorry.
you had a question there.
To just say, Gordon, I just wanted to add what a pleasure it has been working with Barbara Bigos over the last several years. I think that sometimes the town doesn't realize the amount of hours and extra effort that our people put in. And being in real estate, I had a lot of questions and interaction with Barbara Bigos, and I always found her to be helpful, knowledgeable, and caring in her responses. That's so important. And I just wanted everyone to recognize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla, because you work in other towns too, where so you have some basis for comparison. Yeah, we don't want to, yeah. Anyway, thank you for those words. Great. So on to the next items. We have $303,666.40 refunding to taxpayers. The major one is a double payment of real estate tax of $3,414.31. And then we have some motor vehicle taxes. We have a motor vehicle, we have a duplicate payment of motor vehicle tax, we have an overpayment of real estate tax, and we have a overpayment of, we have a duplicate payment of motor vehicle tax, an overpayment of motor vehicle tax, and an overpayment of real estate tax. So we have a little bit of everything, but again, these are overpayments, duplicate payments, so it's more or less routine for us to refund this back to taxpayers. So I'll entertain a motion to grant the recommendation of our tax collector, Gene, to make these 4 refunds.
I'll move. We do that?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, any discussion? Okay. Thank you, Gene. And so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then we have our additions to the agenda. Snow shoveling co-op. Not quite sure what that is about, but Janet, why don't you explain it?
Of course. So as I was shoveling snow at one of my neighbor's houses, one of several neighbors' houses, I actually don't like shoveling snow that much, but it's good exercise. I realize that. It occurred to me that creating a snow-op or a snow co-op of some sort, where we had a list of people, younger people, who would want to make some money, creating a co-op where people could sign up for it at the beginning of the season. They would pay a set fee, and it would be split amongst the people that did the shoveling. So it would just be a list of people who wanted to do that kind of work. And, people wouldn't have to call around. They would, be sent out to do the shoveling at the houses that they signed up for. So it just seemed like a good opportunity, since we've got a fair amount of young folks around who probably would love to have extra money in their pocket. It just seemed like a good idea to be able to have a group of folks that would be sent out when the snow starts and be able to shovel it, much like the town crew. you don't have to call them up. They show up and they do their job. So it was just, I just wanted to have something on the agenda to talk about that, because we do have a good amount of people in town who have the need. And I don't know many young people who don't mind having a few extra bucks in their pocket. It just might be a way to solve one problem and solve another too.
Yeah, I say my only concern is that obviously we're dealing with storms, we're dealing with shoveling, there's some liability, there's some, I mean, I don't think this should be a town deal. I think if people want to get together on their own, similar to the Cornwall Fuel Co-op, which is privately organized, so that when people run out of fuel, they don't have to call town hall.
Yeah.
There's some things we do well, like Plow Road, some things we're probably best leaving people to make their own arrangements. But I think it's a great idea but I think because of some of the liability issues involved, it should be an agreement between the people that need it and the people that have a service. But if you want to publicize it ahead of next season, hopefully we're not gonna have any more storms. I think there probably is a need for doing that, would be my thought.
Okay.
And that would be a good model, just to put it out there. Two people similar to the fuel co-op, and the people that are interested can get together and find their way.
Is there somebody that you would recommend talking to about, just putting something like that together?
You can talk to Rick Walkowitz, because he runs the fuel co-op,
Okay,
and how he's done that.
Okay.
I know that's a different season, but I believe he solicited, he put things out a couple months ahead of time, and then people contact him, I believe, by Labor Day if they want to be in. He gets bids, he organizes it all, he does it, finds out who's interested from year to year, and that group changes, but and sometimes the town participates in that as a consumer, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
But there's flexibility there where the town did something like that, there'd be a lot of different red tape and things, so.
well, I mean, but it's also, there's a couple sidewalks in town that are not passable if they don't get shoveled. So I mean, those would be the kind of things I'd want to put into that co-op, just to get them, taken care of, because it's kind of ridiculous to have sidewalks and not have them be able to be used. So anyway, that was my thought as I was doing a lot of shoveling this past weekend. And
Okay.
the snow op, there you have it.
Okay, sounds good. Any thoughts on that, Priscilla?
I agree, and Janet has been, as one has taken care of us beautifully. Thank you very much, Janet.
It's my pleasure. I had an extra piece of cake because of the work I did, so it's all good.
Okay. All right, anything else on that?
I'll call Rick.
Call Rick. Jeff Morgan has expressed an interest in being on the Inland Wetlands Commission. I know he's spends a lot of time in inland wetlands fishing, and I asked him if he have interest, and he said he would. So I would make a motion that we appoint Jeff Morgan to the Inland Wetlands Commission. Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, thank you, Jeff. And last edition is healthcare update.
Okay, that's me. So I did get a message from Joanne Borduas, who is the CEO of Community Health and Wellness. They are ready to bring Betty to town. As you recall, Betty is the mobile healthcare services mobile that Community Health and Wellness uses to bring healthcare. They would be looking to be here on Wednesdays from 9:30 to 2:30. We're going to look at starting the inaugural run on potentially April 6th. So the time would be split between West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge. We would likely do a vaccination clinic or something relatively simple up front, just to get started. But we'll be doing some publicity ahead of time. Like I'll make sure to get that in the Cornwall Chronicle and across social media and such so that people are aware of it. We'll be doing some flyers and things. So they can provide any primary care. But again, like I think it's just getting the word out is going to be pretty critical there, and have people feel comfortable too. Once they see that they could get blood pressure checked, potentially any, if there was infection, if they thought they had pneumonia, they'd be able to get checked. So there's a lot of simple stuff that would make people a lot more comfortable, and they'd be able to do it close to home too. So we'll talk about the exact locations, but the one in Cornwall, West Cornwall, would likely be outside the Union, just because people can wait inside while it's still a little bit chilly. And then Gordon, we were going to talk about doing the Cornwall Bridge at Bonnybrook potentially. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, I did a little follow-up on that, and the management there said that their parking lot can be full regularly anyway, so they liked the idea of having the service, but felt that their parking lot was not could be filled with residents and visitors and stuff, and then having 3 or 4 more cars may create a problem. So that idea, the out of the hat idea didn't work out. So so the thought, and I think I did talk to Heather about this. So the thought is maybe another alternate site would either be the library or the town hall,
Okay.
possible places. So I could talk to the library, see what their thing is. Again, that might, as people are coming there anyway, that might be a good flow.
Okay.
So that'd be sort of my 1-2 places, or we could just stay in West Cornwall for a while.
Okay. I'd like to
so
have,
let me-
it'd be nice to have another location.
Yeah, I just think because there are people get their travel patterns, and there's some,
Sure.
And there are people, especially if people can walk to it, that's really
Even
good.
better.
So,
Yeah. Okay, if you
and
could,
again,
just let me know about that.
yeah, I'll talk to the library about that whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so that's great. April 6th.
Yes.
So then, the key on that too is to get something into the Chronicle for April, which means we should nail this down
Yes.
the next week or so. So
Yeah.
we'll-
I'm talking to Joanne. She emailed me today. I answered her back. I will give her a call tomorrow and just get the details.
And again, they need in addition to a place to park, they need a place, a couple of parking spots. And then they need a building for people to, probably with a bathroom or whatever, people to
Yes.
wait in. Do
Yes.
they need to actually have a designated space for like a waiting room and somebody to set up a receptionist, or does does the receptionist or whoever, how does that, they need a table? they need
I can get the details on that
Yeah.
from Joanne. We'll walk through kind of the process, and
Right.
I can send an email to follow up on that if that's acceptable.
Great. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I think having those details, like if they need space, do they need to, they need a table,
Right.
telephone,
Okay.
computer jack, something.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
assume
I'll walk
everywhere
through
we
that
got
with Joanne. It's
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too surprised if we did some sort of dry run just to kind of make sure
Right.
everything's set up. And then on that day, I will be available just to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, I'd just be curious too, how many people come out with the van? Is there like a receptionist and the nurse practitioner or a doctor, or they have a nurse? Do they have 2 or 3 people? Do they have one
So
person?
there would also be, we're coordinating with another APRN, Advanced Practice
Yeah.
Registered Nurse. So there would likely be 2 healthcare professionals and then potentially like another person to help coordinate, but I'll have those details.
Right, great. So, and again, we're meeting again, because we're meeting today, we're meeting early. Um, we're meeting, our second meeting is early in the month, so it's the 15th, so we'll still meet ahead of that publication deadline, so we can publicize and get those things hammered out at our next.
Yeah, I'll make
meeting.
sure to have everything done, and I'll communicate any information I get in the meantime via email.
Great. Okay,
It's exciting
sounds
stuff.
good. Yeah, it'll be a good day to see a mobile clinic
Exactly.
coming to town. Good. All right, so public comments, I think we're at that point. Yes, I see a hand raised. Anna?
Could I
Hello?
ask, could I think I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted? Yeah.
You are
Could
Could I
unmuted.
ask just for some clarification on the housing committee? Gordon, would that be all right? A couple of
Sure.
questions.
Yes,
When you said you used the adverb promptly in terms of the work of the committee in putting together some recommendations for the housing trust fund, what does
Yes.
promptly mean to you?
several months. I mean, I don't, like, in view of what we went through with the housing study group, which more or less took a year of meetings and forums and things, I see this being a fairly short.
Good.
This being
That's
fairly
all
short,
I wanted to hear. That's
because I
fine.
think it's basically what, there's several good examples out there, and this is not trying to solve all the housing problems. This is a very much focused task to come up with what is a good, locally based housing financial vehicle that has worked in other places. So that's why I think, and also because Jocelyn has a great knowledge of this, and there's other couple of people I like to tap with experience. So I see a couple meetings with getting data, and then another meeting to pull together a recommendation. And then the next thing would be to actually get a trust and find out, how does that get formed? So that to have legal paperwork has to be done? Is it a town vote or whatever else? Because I think it's going to be, it's not necessarily going to be a town government organization. It may be, a semi-private organization or something like that. I don't know. So anyway, similar to the housing corporation itself is not a town
Yeah.
board. It's a separate private corporation, and that in a lot of ways that allows them, to do things that are with a lot less, red tape than we have. So
Just
So anyway.
one more follow-up question. Does that group of people then go on to become the housing commission as described in the affordable housing plan?
well, again, we haven't quite got to that point yet. And I think that's one of the side discussions we're going to have is,
Okay,
do we just at this point launch a community housing trust and raise money and get that going, as opposed to having a housing commission? Because we already have a housing corporation, and we have a senior housing corporation, and then we have a community housing trust. And I'm a little bit reluctant to then throw in a housing commission that doesn't really have a clear purpose or need at this point. We're also talking about getting a housing advocate, which would be one person to work on cases and things. So anyway, so that's part of the thing too, that's why we're saying, what is the vehicle? Is it a commission? Is it a community housing trust? And again, we'll find out more when we start checking in what other towns have done. So
Okay.
yeah. So again, we want to do stuff. I don't think we want to have 3 or 4 groups with overlapping responsibilities. Because as we've seen, there's a limit to how many people we can have to step forward. And I think raising, the money is going to be a huge undertaking at this point, and a really important undertaking as the next step. Yes, I see Margaret Cooley of the Cornwall Housing Corporation.
Well, I wanted to make a suggestion about the mobile healthcare thing.
Okay,
Um, Back in the day that Bonnie Brook was under construction, which was, a couple of years, when we used to have to get together down there, involve a lot of cars and everything, we got permission from the Cornwall Bridge Firehouse to, one time we had a tent, we had a public event there, and everybody was able to park somewhere. And I don't know whether that's an option, and I don't, for example, needing to use an enclosed space. I can't remember what that firehouse is like, whether it's a bit maybe too boyish for the purposes of sanitation whatsoever, but it's a possibility. I mean, there it is, and it's,
yeah.
it's paved.
Yep, I had thought of that. I think initially my thoughts would be there may be a enclosed space that's better suited as a waiting room for potential people.
Like maybe
It
every
is-
third or fourth time you could have it in Cornwall Bridge. I just think it's nice for each section of
Yeah.
town.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I
yeah.
had thought of whether it's possible to have it at Cougarman as another parking lot
Yeah.
with a little office there. It just,
And there's a part of that parking lot which is dedicated to people who don't live there. I mean, there is excess parking.
right. So
I
again,
mean,
we're definitely want to try to move it around a bit, but yeah. So that's current thinking at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Bill.
Yeah, I'm on the question for Janet. Janet, could you hold up those signs again? It's back on the railroad spraying thing.
Of course.
I'm not sure I saw those correctly. Yeah, aren't they spraying herbicide?
They are.
Oh, okay.
I can, I think they'll get the point. Your point is well taken. I guess that points out what a city girl I am, because I would know herbicide from pesticide. Although now I do know what it is, but that did not occur to me. I'm slightly embarrassed to admit, but I think the point, that's so funny. Okay, so I'm a little bit embarrassed that I didn't know that.
And I
Or
was
that didn't occur to me. I just I saw the sign and I was like, well, look how cool these are. And they're made out of aluminum. So I guess I just kind of jumped the turnstile a little quickly, didn't I? I'll
They're
call you
very
next
nice,
time I do a
though.
sign.
They're very
Yeah.
nice.
They are very
Yeah.
nice. So maybe I can add herbicide and pesticide.
And I think if you check the contract, they use the word pesticide too.
Oh, they
They
do.
do. Thank you
The
for rescuing me.
The
Anna. That's
materials
very
that we received from the state use the word pesticide, so.
I did read the document. Maybe that's why it's stuck
Yeah,
in my head.
the ignorance goes all the way up to the state level.
Wonderful. I love that I'm in line with that.
And
Thank you for that clarification.
one other thing on the spraying, Gordon, that came up the other day, maybe at the last meeting, about what is it that they're spraying? Is it Agent Orange? Because
I believe we did get a list of what chemicals they're using. They called it a cocktail, although I wouldn't recommend drinking it. It's sort of a mix. Yeah, and I can, if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I can answer that question. Would you like me to?
Mhm.
It's
Sure.
Roundup with a bunch of stabilizers and spreaders.
Yeah. It's nasty stuff.
some surfactants, in other words.
Yes.
There you go.
Roundup itself does not have a very long life. It's the stabilizers that concern me for one thing, and that stuff. I was exposed to Agent Orange once upon a time, And it's not very nice stuff.
No.
And I wonder if that's what we want to have along the railroads in our town.
Right, yes.
I'd like a little more clarity on just what's in it.
On what they're spraying? Okay. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you all for attending and everybody for their work. Keep things moving forward. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take
Good night,
care.
everybody.
Good night.
Right.